Howdy there, folks. I hope everybody is doing well. This is the Economy Quick Tips. I don't know if it's a tutorial, but it's going to be my Economy Quick Tips here. The economy is one of probably the part of this game that is just the most difficult to get through, and hopefully it doesn't turn too many folks off to it. But if you are struggling with it, I'll give you advice. That's what it is. There's lots of other advice: Reddit, YouTube, Steam, Discord, and it's all good advice, I'm sure. But this is what I have for you. I'll go through the what. If you want to know the why, I'll add the links to several videos that I've done in the past that really get more into the weeds of all of this. But I don't want that to be this video. I just want to kind of tell you what to do. All right. First thing first. Again, this is not in any particular order. Don't build buildings. The short reason is you're not going to make your money back before the campaign ends. Assume that the campaign might go 24 months, and probably most will go 6 months shorter, 6 months longer, something like that. But around the 24-month mark, you're not going to make your money back on those investments with the vanilla subsidy system. Similarly with railroads, probably building none is just fine. Building one might work, but again, because of the subsidy system, the time it takes to build, you're not going to get many profitable lines, if any, before your campaign actually ends. And so for economic reasons, it's hard to justify building railroads. Third, don't import weapons, and don't buy every single weapons project that's available to you. Imported weapons, I understand that they can get here faster. They cost money to unlock, and they're generally more expensive, and that's the problem. They are more expensive, and people tend to forget that there's a 25% annual breakdown rate that's written into the game. So it's not just that you pay more now, but you pay that higher kind of that maintenance fee to maintain those weapons for your troops. You can get by with just a few projects, probably cast artillery, and then either rifled artillery or parrots, medium cav carbines, and Springfield rifled muskets, and you should be good. Or Confederate rifles would be fine as well for the CSA. You get what you need. Reboard rifles could probably work for lots, and that would be cheaper, and you'll have lower costs because the replacement rates of those less expensive weapons will be lower. All right, fourth, I would say start your campaigns with most of your subsidy sliders maxed out. I don't have as many good places for industrial subsidies. Politics I do, but it's a little bit more tricky and goes beyond the scope of this one. So if you're not as good with what to do with the politics one, you can either turn it down or leave it in the middle. Do whatever you want with it. But you're going to want a lot of economy subsidies, a lot of military subsidies, and then some diplomacy and some agriculture. You turn them down later in the game when there are no longer projects that are going to make you money before you expect the campaign to come to an end. So maybe an example would help. Probably the best project, certainly from an economic perspective in this game, is improved credit rating. You can take it multiple times. It's fairly cheap in vanilla. I think it might be 5 or 10 million, and it gets a little bit more expensive each time, but it improves your credit rating 2 notches. If you don't really understand, I think you do, but like the basic problem in this game is the credit rating, because it's the credit rating that determines you can't recruit any more troops, you can't buy any more weapons, you can't build any more buildings, which you shouldn't be building anyways. You can't be building on more railroad lines, which you probably shouldn't be building anyways. So that is kind of the thing that's causing you the hard stop. So that's how you improve it. There aren't many other ways to do it. I'll talk about some of the other ways you can do it. But that's what your, what do they call? They call it the economy subsidy. So you're going to spend it on that. Military subsidies, there's a one take after you get the weapons you want. You take organization reform once. That saves you on supply costs. Excuse me. And then there is a multiple take somewhere here. I can never ever find this policy. Here it is, logistics reform. And this reduces the cost of keeping up. I think it's only your land-based armies. But that's what you're doing with those subsidies. If you get to a point, though, where, say, that this project becomes so expensive, say it actually did cost you $20 million to save 5%, and your army upkeep was so low that it might take you like a year and a half to make that money back, and you think the campaign's going to be over in 3 months, it's time to stop pursuing that project and then drag that slider all the way down to 0. You can always drag it back later, but if there's nothing else good, then don't worry about it. Policies and actions. So yeah, you want to go through government 1, funding 1, 2, military 1, 2. The acts that are, I think, good for fiscal stuff, you want the Tariff Act for sure. Revenue Act 1, yeah, definitely. Confiscation Act, not until you're ready to send large numbers of Union troops into the South. As a CSA, you get the Impressment Act. It's a little bit better. It's actually better in a number of ways than that one you can take early. But for the Union, I would hold off on this one until you're ready to actually invade the South. After November of 62, government funding 3, Revenue Act 2 and 3. I would say, as a rule of thumb, each one of these revenue acts brought in about $75 million on a 12-month basis. And so, yeah, that adds up to a lot. Banking Act 1, really good. It also improves credit rating +2, $120 million every 12 months. It costs you some support, but you can buy that back later. Print notes 1 and 2 aren't bad. They'll get you $50 million on a 12-month basis each. War bonds is one of the other ways to increase the credit rating. In vanilla, it's going to improve it by +2 for a hit on national wealth. And yeah, military, again, for those subsidies, military 1, 2, and then after November 62, you can go to 3 and increase that subsidy level. That'll be nice. If you're waiting for those to unlock and you've done the other funding and military stuff, diplomacy 1, maybe even 2, agriculture 1 and 2, and the projects you're looking for with those. When it comes to diplomacy, I've had good experience as the Union with trade deals. I've not had as good experience with the CSA's trade deals. But maybe that's ripe to be tested. And then with the agricultural subsidies, farm mechanization, it's not probably the best economic one, but in the campaign it's good because it's going to get you more crops and it's going to get you more volunteers. Otherwise, you could just plug it into subsidized agriculture. That was one of the other policies I found was actually kind of decent. I just don't have any good use for industrial subsidies. If you want them to subsidize infrastructure, industry, or get your weapons faster, you're certainly welcome to do it, but I haven't found that it actually is worth the cost. Starting policies do matter. I don't want to dwell on those too much. I'm not the fan of industrialization that others are. I'm not going to get into the why. I like both the railroads for both sides. For the Union, I like breadbasket, and then maybe one of the ones that improve support. And for the CSA, it's pretty much maybe 2 of them, maybe Apostles of Disunion, and then maybe Kansas to get the support buffs. But they have a kind of more indirect effect on the economy. And my last recommendation is just pay attention to provisions. I think particularly with a Union campaign, the Navy and the naval cost can really run away from you. You may not think you have a lot. All right, so this is going to go up here as we progress through this. But we can see even here, Navy upkeep is higher than Army upkeep. And if you're not using your Navy, my guess is if you need like a lot of economic help, then you're probably not using your Navy or you're not using it well, in which case it might just be better to open up the military tab, take your fleets, and take your ships. In particular, frigates and steam frigates have high upkeep costs. Just take them out of the fleets, put them in harbor where they cost nothing or almost nothing, and then if you're actually ready to use them later on, you just drag them out to your fleet. They'll get there in a couple days, and you can start rampaging all through the high seas. So that's a big one. You don't want to trade a whole lot of supply depots. You want to build those once you're pretty comfortably in there, and you don't want to move your armies more than you have to. All right, those were the tips, and I'm not going to talk too much about the kind of why those tips, except to say that if you know quite a bit of conventional, like Western economic thought and practice, don't try to apply it to this game. Don't worry about production. Don't worry about shortages. This game is very much an exercise in controlled fiscal decline, and your goal is to just decline more slowly than the AI. And in vanilla, if you do the kind of things that I've been telling you to do, then you will certainly do that, and it shouldn't be a problem. And if you stuck around to hear that, I'll give you my bonus tip and then wrap this up. In the vanilla game, the settings are set such that until November 62 elections, there's a kind of artificial nerfing of credit rating and national debt. So you can't take on as much debt as you can right after those elections. Right after those elections, your debt can remain unchanged, but your credit rating will magically improve. It's not magic, it's how that part of the game is coded. But if you do notice that happening and you're wondering why, I'm just telling you that is why. All right, folks, I hope this helped you. If not, if you got any questions on specifics, go ahead and throw those in the comments. Otherwise, good luck out there.